Hello, welcome to All About Animals Radio, and this is the Solutionist Show. I'm your host, Billie Groom. And today we are talking about the controversial issue of Edmonton Valley Zoo's lone elephant loose. Oh God, I get the shivers just saying this. This is such an impactful story. Oh my gosh. She's an elephant Lucy. We're speaking with Yvonne Luscombe, an independent advocate who's been investigating Edmonton FOI combined documents, and we will learn what that acronym is to see if Lucy can be freed to a sanctuary. And most importantly, what exactly is stopping this, why this has been ongoing for so long, where the blocks are, and if there is a solution. And of course, there is a solution. We just need that to happen. And that's what happens on the Solutionist Show. So we are here today. Thank you so much, Yvonne.
Thank you, Billie. It's an absolute pleasure to be here, and it's always a privilege to be able to talk for Lucy. Poor girl, she needs all the voices she can get, but it is a phenomenally interesting story. It's worthy of being a movie one day, really, everything that's involved with that poor soul.
And you should be a part of that movie because you have a lot of information. You have really been involved deeply in this, and I thank you so much for sharing your information with us because it's been such a long journey. And you and I were just talking about how you've gone back and looked back on a lot of the posts and social media posts and pictures and documents, the documents from veterinarians and from other experts on this going back. Will you tell us how long? And yeah, how long? Start back.
Some of these documents go back, the actual Lucy medical records, the actual zoo notes, go back to 1980 and prior to that. And then there is a phenomenal amount of information that was gained from Freedom of Information by ZooCheck and other people going back even further. So people over the decades have literally studied and asked for every single bit of Edmonton documentation that there was and is about Lucy. And the question is, why is everybody fascinated about Lucy? There's plenty of captive elephants. Maybe it's because she's in such a bizarre climate for an elephant. Maybe it's because people that have looked at other animals. I used to advocate for Toki, the orca, and Kiska, and I know loads of orca advocates that it was like Lucy was an honorary orca because the stories were the same. Lucy was taken from her mother, taken from the wild, sold by a wildlife dealer. She's had a brutal existence, and it's the same thing. People that buy tickets are looking at the animal, like they used to look at Toki and Kiska and say, well, they don't look too bad. And just not getting it. What is it that we see that people who buy tickets don't see? And there's got to be a lot to it because people don't waste their time for 40 years. The same as everybody tried to free Toki for 50 years, and watch Kiska for so long. But the difference between, I suppose, the orca and Lucy is there is a sanctuary for Lucy, a really, really brilliant one in Tennessee, who have already taken a lot of zoo and circus elephants. So this is nothing new. Toronto sent their elephants away, Calgary. There are zoos like Detroit who were probably, I think, the first to recognize that it didn't matter how many millions they spent building a habitat, they could never make elephants happy in a zoo, which was a really big deal, when they did that. And
it
then
is. So I'm just going to step back here for a second to Lucy is in Canada, which I don't know if we've actually said that yet. We're naming off some cities here, so I just want to clarify. And Canada is cold. I am in Canada. Where are you, Yvonne? Let's just start there. Where are you right now?
I'm actually in the south of England in the UK.
Okay.
and somehow I'm learning about an Edmonton elephant.
Yeah, no, it's great. We appreciate you doing this so much. I am in Canada. I'm about 7 hours, which sounds like a long way from Lucy, but actually Canada is very vast. So weather-wise, it's not. It can be very cold here for many months of the year. Um, and it can be very bleak. And that is, as you rightly just brought up, not where elephants would normally live. And it's not, they're not made for that. I mean, some days I feel like nobody's made for the weather here. How anybody lives here is beyond me. But let's talk about, and you did mention the Toronto Zoo. That is also in Canada and Calgary. It is interesting that the Toronto Zoo did send 3 of their elephants to sanctuary, and yet the Edmonton and the Calgary Zoo has done some progressive measures as well. But the Edmonton Zoo is just sticking by their guns almost for a reason that is inexplicable, but we will get to that. Let's talk about uh, Lucy's journey a little bit, and then the type of conditions that she's in. I think it's good to understand why this is an important issue, why she is suffering and has suffered and continues to suffer.
Okay. What I've done is I've pulled up pictures basically from the internet that have been floating around for years, because these are the things that kind of catch our eye about, as an advocate, we can't spend all our time, trying to save every single animal. We do sign petitions and everything, but usually there's a general animal that attracts our attention. And a lot of these, it is because of pictures that are floated around. So there's a process that some elephants have gone through as babies called crushing. And we know about this here because in England we have Save the Asian Elephants, who have worked to get actually laws passed through our parliament to ban tourist agencies, I suppose, selling tickets to captive elephant tourist attractions that do cruelty. Now, Edmonton Valley Zoo actually crushed Lucy. It's in documents. And what that means is they tie an elephant down for a week, they beat them with bull hooks, and they winch them. It's to break the spirit. Now, Lucy has been in the Edmonton Valley Zoo for 46 years. So you could kind of maybe say they didn't know any better at the time. Here's an old picture of Lucy looking very terrified. That's done the rounds of the internet for years. This is actually what a bull hook looks like. It is a device not meant to give a cue. It is meant to inflict pain. So after that, now, baby elephants, and this was a picture that really grabbed my attention about Lucy, and I think it grabs a lot of people, which is why she's such a popular elephant to advocate for, is because at this age, she should have still been with her mother or in a nursery. She certainly should not have been being ridden by anybody.
What age is that? Do you know what age that is?
That's about 2.
Okay.
And then
God, this is tough to listen to. I have to say, it's
and then
to give them credit because they didn't know any better.
Well, it's one of those things. We can't go back, but people have got to understand, or I would appreciate them understanding, why we feel Lucy deserves a year or 2 or 3 or 4 or maybe even 20, because elephants in sanctuaries live 20 years longer on average than in zoos. But this is why she's so important, because we empathise with her. She's had it tough. It's not like an elephant that's maybe been in a zoo that hasn't quite got it right, but she's been with a few others and it hasn't been too bad. Lucy had it tough, and she still has it tough.
So she's been alone since she was 2 years old? She
did have a companion for, I think, about 10, I think it was something like 16 years, and we'll go on to that.
Okay.
Because that's actually more interesting than I first thought. And there's Lucy details attached to that one. So I just want to say though, but in the records that I've dug up, and I've taken some from the Edmonton Advocates Leap information and some from Zoo Records. So I'm in the middle. I'd like to see, if someone says it's raining, if someone says it's dry, I'm doing the look outside and see what it is, kind of thing. And that's what I wish media would do. And I wish government would do it, because they don't. So there's a record here that said, in 1978, it took only a week for Lucy to become comfortable with her chains. But when they wanted her to lie down, they had to use a winch and force her.
Why would they want her to lie down?
It's just part of the process. It's just part of the crushing. I suppose it's called crushing because it crushes their spirit. It's still done in some far off land places. It's, I'd be surprised if any zoo did it these days. Circuses did it. It's what they did. It's a big wild animal. They want to control that animal. But this is, I'm not saying this to say, poor Lucy, and, because there's nothing else we can do now. It's done, it's dusted. Sadly, it happened. But again, it's just to understand. People maybe not understand why everybody's so passionate about Lucy. And also, we have this business about Edmonton Valley Zoo saying Lucy is bonded to the zoo. She's a people elephant, which world experts just say they've never heard of such nonsense. But also, why would she be a people elephant and bonded to someone that's beaten, that's done these things to her? Elephants are ridiculously clever. They are super intelligent. And
she knows she's not meant to be there. She knows that that's not where she's meant to be.
And she has fought back. That was one of the biggest things I found in these documents, was Lucy grabbing bull hooks, Lucy taking swings, Lucy bolting from her trainers, and they couldn't do a thing about it at the time. And it's in the expert court testimonies, and so why is the zoo still saying she's bonded? Now, I'm not on a blame game for staff or anything else. The staff have changed over the years, so she's certainly not bonded to people that have come and gone. I don't know if there's one or two ones that were here at the time, that I've got a picture here from a newspaper saying Lucy the elephant hates our winters, and there's a picture of her standing on a ball and the picture of someone riding her, and saying that the trainer proudly states Lucy's souvenir of her first winter was frostbite on her ears.
Can you see that photo?
Well, this is probably where she got it. They got her out to push a truck that was stuck. And thing is, what's changed, over the years? So I'll do the photos.
This is Edmonton. I just want to say, people, there's tow trucks all over Edmonton. There are we get snow like that all the time. For those who saw that truck is not stuck in anything
that is an old
we're
picture.
not expecting. Pardon me?
That is an old black and white picture, that one. It is an old
There's
one.
still tow trucks. The trucks have been getting out of snow in Canada for decades. We don't need elephants to push a truck out of snow.
No. And I wonder, with those pictures that you've seen, why has the Alberta Biodiversity Wildlife Department issued a permit for education for this place? To get an education permit.
Funding. They get funding. They get grants.
This is the thing. When you look at how that zoo gets their permits, they're getting it from places that's all government funded. There's nothing independent about it. And nobody will uphold the Alberta Zoo standards. It's a law. And we'll come on to that, because it actually says, written on the Edmonton website and Alberta website, if there's any concerns, and it's only a concern. It's not like it says you've got a stone bonking proof. It's a concern. You can report to, law enforcement, and it says something like the RCMP, the police, the peace officers, CASA, I think there's one other, but it doesn't matter who you call. None of them will do it. All that happened, it was 311. So you call any of these people, and I've tested this myself, and people have done it for 30 at least years, and everybody says it's the other one. The RCMP wrote me back saying, really sorry, Yvonne, but it's not us. The police are really sweet and gave me a nice phone call and really went through it. And they said, it's not us. So both of them have said, don't know why that's on the website. 311 will only put you through to the zoo, which is a laugh because they're the ones that you want to complain about.
Yeah.
The peace officers won't touch it. And the actual government ministers, when you complain to them, and they've changed obviously drastically over the years, they all say the same thing. If you wish to make a complaint about Lucy, because we've never seen any evidence she's been hurt, and you're thinking, that can't quite be true, you can phone and you can guess what that list is. And that's
The
what they
same
do.
list that just, yeah.
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 And you think, what's
Yeah,
going
and
on?
they intentionally do that, and it's
Yeah.
Canada and it's worldwide, probably, maybe not everywhere, but where you just get the runaround because nobody wants to deal with it because it's
And what I don't understand is it's not actually a difficult problem. It really isn't. I mean, they've got something like 350 animals there. Well, losing one isn't going to be a big deal. I know Lucy was down as their star attraction, and I've got an Edmonton Council document here that says it. And we will get to that one in a minute because that's a really good document to have a
which
look at. Because
implies that it's really all about money.
oh, here it is. So this is, I've got printed up here pages 37, 38, and 39 of the Edmonton 2005 council plan to do with the zoo. It's a big long document. It's online. So when Edmonton Valley Zoo say that Lucy can't travel and she's not there to earn money, every line of this is worth a read. Every single line of it. Because on it says, send both elephants away now. So they could both travel. So even they've said it. And this was when Samantha was there. We'll pop back to that in a minute. And it says
So what year
cons.
is this? What year is
This
this?
is 2005. So I'm going to be popping all over the place with years because this
Yeah,
stuff is
no,
just
that's okay.
interlinked. So the con of sending Lucy away, right? It doesn't say anything about her breathing or bonded. It says Lucy is zoo icon. Elephant is zoo logo. Potential union problems. Zoo will lose its star fundraiser. Zoo will lose attendance. And there's lots more pros and cons and things. But this was the one that really caught my eye. It says, investigate options for caring for Lucy. Option 1, keep Lucy comfortable in existing facility for the rest of her life. Be ready to address CASA, ASA and PETA issues in a proactive manner. So if they
So
didn't
they
know they were
know
doing,
that they're, yeah,
they
they know.
already knew they were doing something very wrong. Yeah. And, it's illegal to hold a solitary elephant in Canada because it's already proven it's cruel, and especially for a female elephant. That Lucy, should spend her entire life with her family group. And if that family group was taken away, as we've seen from other sanctuaries, I can think of the one in Kenya that is just phenomenal, that takes in all the orphans. They live in groups, and they do get bonded to a new group. So by doing this, the Edmonton Valley Zoo have already gone against all science.
And
So
the law. They're currently breaking the law.
they are. So when they've put this Mythbuster thing on their website, and what they do is they get a special dispensation because it says we're not illegally holding Lucy. So what they need is a vet to tick a box and say, no, Lucy can't travel. And then CASA can take their fee and give a special dispensation. And that's how they do it.
But we can see the irony here. Lucy can't travel for health reasons, yet it's okay to be beaten and winched and to get frostbite and to live in an environment that is painful for her, to be
Yep.
alone,
Yep.
to be emotionally stressed, to be
Mm-hmm.
physically abused, but oh, she can't travel.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. It really is. And the thing is, it's really tricky. I think sometimes people, if I show you this picture here, and there's a reason for this one. So this picture here is the the zoo person has put a bull hook in her mouth, very sensitive part of any elephant's, body. She breathes through her mouth. She's got arthritis. She's 2,000 pounds overweight, and he feels the need to do that. Now, there's another picture to that I should have printed up. When I watched the CBC fifth film, The Elephant in the Room, which was about Lucy, this brilliant film, it's still available to watch. And there was a part in it whereby Lucy is outside and there's some, in the zoo, and there's some tourists walking past. And the guy goes up to Lucy, no bull hook, but gets her to lift him. And you can see someone go, how lovely. And I thought, yeah, but what you've just seen wasn't that. And that's what happened to Lucy, and they're probably thinking, oh, look, she's doing that to a trainer. Yeah, and look what a trainer did to her, and that's the problem. That film was brilliant because I think it was Bob Barker on it, William Shatner. And on that film, Lucy was swaying backwards and forwards in the barn around the staff, which, of course, is a proven scientific mental distress. She's having a mental breakdown when she's swaying. I've seen films of Lucy on display in the yard, rocking away, and there are people screaming, children screaming. Again.
And I've seen ones where she's just banging her head against the steel bars, just banging her head. She is, yes. And we have seen elephants travel great distances, as Toronto Zoo did, and as soon as they get into the wild, into their sanctuary, they completely bond with elephants.
They do, and also it's a lot of the stuff in here. These huge court documents, 500 pages long from top class vets and everything about Lucy. They say they have transported really sick elephants, probably some worse off than Lucy, and some of them have transported elephants that are practically 90 years of age. Lucy is described by the zoo as really elderly. She's not. She's middle-aged. She might be just tipping over 50, but as if you were a human, but she's not elderly. And all of them say that her health problems are due to captivity. You can read anything from, I don't know, the likes of Born Free or anybody else, and they've got long, detailed documents, and they've done statements about how zoos, the captivity really stresses and hurts elephants, because an elephant, to stay healthy, needs to roam 16 hours a day. It doesn't need to run about like a cheetah. It just needs to roam and on a soft surface, graze, browse, bays and all that kind of stuff. And that is how you stay fit and healthy. A dog can live on a chain for 10 years, or a dog can live in a house for 10 years, but which one's going to be more healthy? It's the same thing. Lucy's health problems are caused by this captivity, and there's
again the irony in it. They're creating their own reason for not sending her to a sanctuary. They're self-creating it. They're perpetuating the reason, their justification for not sending her, which we know is not the real reason anyway. The real reason is money and attraction, and it's just become this issue that it shouldn't be. It's become this, it's almost like they're so defiant now on not because it's
I think there's a lot of I don't know to call it pride or not, because if you're proud of something, it's because deep down in your heart you've done the right thing, or you really believe that you did the right thing. But they know what they're doing, they absolutely. And one thing actually I can show you here quickly is when they this is quite interesting. So these health records were health records for Lucy between 1980 and March 2009. Now, there's a note here that says ZooCheck first obtained elephant medical records. After this request, the zoo stopped keeping the detailed records. Now, there's an email amongst this lot, and it's between zoo staff, and the person in charge has told the vet to not keep any future detailed notes like I have here, and like these are, no more. Just to put Lucy is fine. So after these were all, this is why this stuff is so incredibly valuable, because this kind of stuff may not exist anymore because they were told not to keep it. And I know from other sources that whereas freedom of information used to come through quite quickly, sometimes it can take 18 months now. You know, it's so hard to get any information about Lucy. Now, again, if you're being honest, why would it be hard? You know,
I wonder if that, speaking of laws, sorry to interrupt,
no, go for it.
would it be illegal for the veterinarian to not report that? I mean, there is the Canadian Veterinary Medical Association, and I wonder, it's certainly unethical,
Well,
undoubtedly unethical.
do you know, I talked to the Alberta ABVMA, I think it is, and I had a nice email back from a vet there who said to move Lucy, you would need permits from these places. And they said they keep an eye on Lucy. And funny enough, a couple of days ago, one of my friends, Lara, bless her, she printed up the Canadian vet oath. And if you read that oath, you have to say, what's going on?
Yeah.
You know, with these vets.
Exactly.
Because it's just bonkers what they're doing.
Have there been vets that have fought to or supported her release to a sanctuary?
Sorry?
Have there been veterinarians in Canada that have supported her release to a sanctuary?
Absolutely. One of them actually did this lovely painting to raise funds for Lucy. That's just a print.
That's wonderful.
That was Dr. Zimmerman. She was an Alberta vet. What I did recently is I actually went through the documents I printed up so far, and I made just lists, you know, just basic lists, yay and nay. And I had 14.
Yay for transporting her to a sanctuary, and nay
yes.
for okay.
Yeah. So of the 14, one of them was a 2005 Edmonton Council plan that admitted that I showed you she could travel. One of them, believe it or not, is CASA. CASA advised Edmonton in about 2006 to get out of the elephant business.
Do you want to, that's the Canadian Zoo Association?
Yeah. But then for a few years, the directors of CASA were the directors of the Edmonton Valley Zoo. We can see where this is going, can't we?
Yeah.
It's made up of zoo people. They get paid a fee and off they go. And I mean, we could be here all night, but in these documents, there's a long list of things that have happened in CASA zoos that just show they're not even upholding their own laws. And we know they're not because, sorry, I'll come back to that list in a minute. But on the May the 11th, 2023, there was this Alberta Health and Safety report done. One of the advocates reported because Lucy's breathing and there's known about the dust in the barn and there's been no lawful ventilation for years, that they were worried about the sand. Now, the sand is silica. Anybody who's got horses knows you do not put silica in a closed building. It's lung disease. You know, you wouldn't want it for a horse, you wouldn't want it for an elephant or anything else. And it actually says in here that a pile of playground silica sand inside the enclosure was used by the elephant as its bed and also as bath powder for its body. When the elephant is bathing with sand, it becomes dusty inside the enclosure. Silica dust can make a worker as well as the elephant acquire lung disease. Pretty serious, you'd think, wouldn't you, lung disease? You know, Lucy's got a breathing issue, but the same for years, they don't know what causes it. And there's no lawful ventilation. So it's, you know, it's almost like you've got a box, you're putting Lucy in that box. And here we go. I bought a little Lucy as an Asian elephant. So you've got a box, you're putting Lucy in that box. Yeah. And the only thing at the end of her trunk she can breathe
Is
is lung
toxic.
damaging toxins. And
Yeah.
this must be the 40 years dedicated care that they keep talking about. But what is the real worry here is that the council, they pay a lot of money. A lot of, you've got people in Edmonton needing food banks, sleeping homeless, education needs, healthcare needs, no one can get a doctor. It's something like $450,000 a month goes on this zoo. And someone had to buy the sand in the first place. Now,
Someone who
so far,
didn't do their research, that's for sure.
no.
But
So
I think,
yeah.
no, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so from what I've read, there's a lot of people there that are not qualified in looking after elephants.
Yeah.
One of the
And
vets they
there's
hired once had not seen an elephant until he went to Edmonton Valley Zoo, Dr. Ness. So, I mean, to be honest, silica sand and no ventilation, it is, it's toddler school.
yeah.
Anybody that's got any animal, if you had a dog and you put it in one of those cages, with the, it's like little bars, isn't it? People will shut dogs in them, but obviously, they can breathe through the bars. Lucy's in a building with no ventilation, and it's not a big building at all.
That can't be legal. There's just
It's
no way.
not. It breaks the law. It breaks Alberta Zoo standards. So you would think, wouldn't you? And the person who reported, and got this done, assumed that as soon as that was done, CASA would uphold the zoo standards, the council would, the environment department would, the zoo would, claiming all this love. Did anybody? No. And that's been going on for years. And yet the money is there. It's not a money thing. The council's already paid, but nobody is overseeing the zoo.
That is an interesting problem. Nobody oversees the zoos.
Yeah.
I was just going to say people are fooled with Canada a lot. They think, oh, okay, really? That's happening in Canada? But there are a lot of, in respect to animal welfare, that are not, they don't oversee. I mean, we have Humane Canada that
They have no jurisdiction now over Edmonton
exactly.
Valley.
They have no jurisdiction. They really have no, it makes it sound as though we have these organizations that oversee and make sure that animals are cared, but there's really not. It takes people bringing it to
The laws for Lucy are there. It's just nobody upholds them.
it's
The
nobody
laws are actually,
and everybody just walks away, elephant in the room, sweep it under the carpet, this type of thing. The
they
one thing
do.
you
And
did
actually,
bring up that I thought was interesting is that toxic material is also toxic to humans. So we've got people working in there. So and
they have to wear
since
masks
this
now.
is the solutionist show, it's interesting that sometimes which it should not be this, and it's terrible, but when it starts affecting humans, it starts to get a little more attention. So all that money that's being used, your points on the homeless people there and food banks and where that money could be going. One would wonder, taking that approach of what would be the benefits to humans by sending Lucy to a sanctuary.
There's
You-
huge benefits. There really is. And also at the
And
sanctuary,
I'm
there are
not
webcams.
advocating
Yeah.
that that's the way to go, but that's
Mm.
it should be about Lucy. But sorry, go ahead.
No, it's absolutely fine. I totally agree. But actually, there's another people issue here. There's the people in Edmonton that have been ridiculed. They were ridiculed for years. And another reason that drew me to it was I saw pictures and I saw posts on social media of these people with their purple t-shirts on, sitting in these council meetings, and they were being made to sit in silence. At these council meetings, I think sometimes you're allowed 3 minutes. They went to these meetings 4 years and they were not allowed 3 minutes. And I actually found that heartbreaking.
It's not freedom of
I
speech.
thought that was,
Sure,
I thought
and
it was
you would
degrading. It was belittling. And these people have been right. And they didn't want to do anything other than do right. Have a chat. Talk to their elected officials that knocked on their door promising them the earth.
And
So
there's been lots of peaceful protests, picketing. There's been a lot of educational resources,
mm,
organizations such as LEAP, which uh, has been influential. There is a lot of there's a lot of support and a lot of people. You are particularly knowledgeable on all the information all the way through. Having said that, there are so many people that just in Canada that just don't know, have no idea, have
I
no idea. And
I completely get why not everybody is keen, or wants to, spend their time thinking about an elephant in a zoo. And perhaps then the way to go is to say it's also a people issue. And it's one of those things that if I see a post, or someone is asking people to write letters in support of a kids charity, or I don't know, someone, wants a new park, or someone wants to do this, someone do anything that helps people, I would like to think that, and I do my best to support that. And it's one of those things that we all moan about leaders and what they do, but it's something that anybody can do, is just say, does that matter to that person? Does it hurt anybody? What's the benefits? Can I say yes? Can I just press a button and help? And that's a people power thing. People could do an awful lot more about not just Lucy, but about all kinds of things. And a few years ago, the council, Edmonton, the new council, had this 2 or 3 day thing where anybody could ask to speak for a few minutes. And they even let me do it. I'm in the UK, they let me do it. So I had a few minutes speaking about Lucy and sending it. And while I was on there, I spent a couple of hours listening to the local people and all the issues they were talking about. And they spoke a lot of sense. There were people that wanted, I don't know, they wanted better facilities in winter to, do their sports, or they gave solutions to local problems. They were very sensible. I was probably, me and a couple of others spoke for Lucy. There was one person speaking for the zoo that wanted more money. But generally, there's a lot of people there saying a lot of good things. I take my hat to the council for doing that, because they would have gone away with a great list of stuff that made an awful lot of sense, and known, without doubt, what the people they are elected and paid to serve wanted to see happen.
Question remains as to how many of those that they actually addressed and what they
Oh,
did, which
absolutely.
I don't know. I'm
And
not there. It's not my city.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
I think it is wonderful that they did that. And I have no doubt that the people that spoke were well educated and spoke well and had some very valid points. There's strong community. There's strong community.
Mm,
They are cities that people live in for a long time. They've had family there for years and years and years. It's a large city. It is it's it's a world renowned city. So
it
that
is.
doesn't yeah.
Yeah. And it's got what I took away from it was how much there is going on.
Yeah.
There was a lady talking about her disabled child doing horse riding and stuff. There was all kinds of, Olympic stuff going on, talking about, how to help children get better for certain sports. And there's a lot going on. They do not need one lonely, depressed elephant.
No.
And if the other zoos, going back to that, can do right and think, right, well, we've learned a bit more now, let's move on. And with the money and everything else, to me, there just doesn't seem a reason why people can't say, yeah, come on, let's just do the right thing here by Lucy. It's no disrespect to anybody, it's no anything. We've learned more, move on. And I'll go back to this list now, the names I found. So who says Lucy can move? Well, for number one, the great Lek Chaylert. She says it. Now, Lek Chaylert is well known amongst wildlife people because she has got Elephant Nature Park. I thought I had a picture of her somewhere. And she has moved over 200 elephants. Now, she does the
Wow.
really hard rescues. You know, she takes the elephants from the worst possible chainings, begging, logging. Last week, she moved a 90-year-old elephant. And the lady has been honoured by world leaders. She speaks at the UN. I mean, she's been on practically like Nat Geo, the Netflix documentary. Her CV is ginormous, and she's just phenomenal, you know. And she actually came to Edmonton last year at the request of Lee to talk to the council, talk to Edmonton Valley Zoo, to meet Lucy. You know, she came from Thailand. She made that effort. They locked Lucy out of sight, and the council refused to meet her. The only people that were courteous, and bear in mind that this lady's been honoured by Hillary Clinton and other people, and you know, around the world. The only people that were courteous was CTV Edmonton, and that she was on the morning show. Now, it's really odd that since the fuss that everybody's been making about, well, how could you be so rude? I mean, you know, if a world wildlife expert came to visit Edmonton, say about red pandas, they'd probably fling open the doors, you know, with a red panda thing going on. But there's you Icon, you know, the world famous elephant expert comes and no one can say hello. You know, Let came to tell
Because
them
they're
she was
scared of her.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, bless her. She's the most, you know, sweet little person ever going. I mean, she must be tough as anything to do what she does, but she does it with grace and she does it with honour. And Edmonton showed none, absolutely none. And I was really mortified for the people at Leap. I mean, they work so hard, you know. And again, if you've got nothing to hide, what are you doing? And what was actually really sad was at the same time, more or less the same month, it was October, Edmonton Valley Zoo had paid $25,000 to a zoo breeding vet from Germany to come and examine Lucy. Now, the annual evaluation is supposed to be about, can she move? The breeding vet, breeding vets don't move aging elephants.
Right. I was
Yeah.
just thinking that as an expert with canines, it's the same thing. I mean, I'm a behaviorist. If people ask me vet questions or ask me breeding questions, I might know just because I've been in the game for 3 decades but it's certainly not something I should be called upon as an expert.
Well, zoo breeding is a known disaster. I'm not saying the vet's a disaster. I'm sure he's very good at what he does, but there's a 3 times higher mortality rate in breeding zoo elephants. It doesn't save the species. In fact, with Asian elephants like Lucy, 40% of the population years ago were taken out of the wild to go into entertainment. It decimated the species. And they just don't breed because when they're in these tiny enclosures, Lucy's got like a 0.3 acre yard, they can do nothing natural. So despite Edmonton Valley Zoo website saying all animals will be seen in a natural habitat and display natural behaviours, well, Lucy's there swaying. You know, you've got your elephant, she's there rocking like that. You know, what else is she going to do?
It's beyond cruel.
Exactly.
That they, from what I understand, and again, I'll let you talk on this, but they will come up with small solutions that get them to be seen or to be perceived as addressing some of these concerns with her environment, to improve her environment. Do those, well, I think we probably know that they really don't improve the environment. They just,
well, you know that
have
she
they
needs safe air to breathe. They
say
bought
that
her
again?
some rocks. They bought her rocks this year, or just at the end of last year. They spent money, taxpayers' money, on rocks in that tiny yard.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing I mean. I keep hearing about these small solutions that they're doing that sort of make them look like they're caring and improving her environment, and it has absolutely
No,
nothing to do with what's going to make, and
I'll
it
just
never
go through
will.
this. Yeah, I'll just go through this list because one of these people hit the nail on the head with what's going on there. So I talked about Lech Taylor. There was a lady called Margaret Whitaker, and she was a zoo director. Over her career, she'd had oversight of 175 elephants. She actually met Lucy, and she, in her expert court witness testimony, said she has asked people in zoos for and against moving Lucy how they perceive the situation, and she came up with this answer. She said vets that are uncertain about moving elephants because it's not what they do would always tick a no box, and that's it. It's not complicated. You know, if the zoo hires a vet that doesn't transport aging elephants, that's what you get. So why don't they? So, you know, that's another thing, Edmonton. All your money, all this stuff you're being told, it's not truthful, because we know
Right.
in
And then they
20
refuse to speak to the woman that actually is an expert on that.
yeah, and in 2022, for the first time ever, after pressure from LEAP for decades, so it took decades to get this far, Lucy had her first ever truthful evaluation to move, and that was Dr. London and Ingo Schmidhinger. So Dr. London wrote a brilliant report, detailed, and said Lucy could move. And Ingo did the same. He's head of elephant operations at a sanctuary. So they're also on the yes list, as well as Dr. William Keith Lindsay, who has 30 years expertise, and his CV is phenomenal. Derek Thompson, who is actually Lex's husband, but he helps run the sanctuary, and he is a co-founder of Save the Elephant Foundation. Derek was instrumental in the rescue and transport of Kavan, the famous Pakistan elephant. Then there's Dr. Joyce Paul, who is also a well-known expert vet. Who else was there? Dr. Philip Ensley, 30 years expertise with elephants. Dr. Mel Richardson, 28 years experience as a captive wild animal vet at zoos. So I hope people are realising this. This is zoo and sanctuary people. It's a pretty even mix. So, you know, other zoos and places, they know of Lucy, and I know that there's been elephant conferences, and the minute Lucy's name is mentioned, it's like a gigantic sigh goes around the room. You know, Lucy is so well known, and it's such a shame, really, because Edmonton Valley Zoo has got quite a huge site. You know, a lot of the cages are a little bit dilapidated and everything else, but if just a little bit of restructuring, you know, and also with all the climate issues that are going on, Alberta does get a lot of extremes. Isn't now the time to restructure? You know, have less animals, stick with your red pandas, do stuff better, use some of that space. You know, because all these people here, oh, by the way, there's Surrender Varma, Asian elephant expert from India, Dr. Zimmerman, who did the painting, she's a vet, and Scott Byers from Global Sanctuary Brazil. They all, over 30 years, have said, and that's up to 2023, Lucy is suffering. And the word pain and suffering is in their reports a lot. That's the common theme. The ones that said, no, Lucy will die if she's moved, because that's the common theme for the zoo to say, isn't it? Dr. Milton Ness, he had no prior experience with elephants at all before Edmonton hired him. Dr. Frank Goeritz was a zoo breeding vet from the last 2 years. Dr. Oosterhuis, the famous one, they kept him on for years. Hired by clients facing criminal cruelty charges. We'll go further into him because there was a big court case. He was in charge of, I think, San Diego, and he was the head keeper of the head vet. And there's a court case about an elephant called Dunder, who was tied down by all four legs and beaten with axe handles for a few days. And he was hired by a circus, and there was 2 elephants died, and 2 days before he had said they're fine to perform, and the autopsy showed they had something like 20% lung capacity, and he'd said they were fine. And the other big one with Dr. Oosterhuis was Alaska, and this is always a very common example. Is Maggie was a lone elephant in Alaska, and if you looked at what Dr. Oosterhuis wrote about Maggie and Lucy, was exactly the same: bonded, will dive, moved, same old, same old. Alaska was having none of it. They hired 11 more vets who all said, move her, she's fine to move. And they said this people bonding business is, So Maggie did go, and she enjoyed 20 years in the Paw Sanctuary. They flew her off in a plane, she was fine, all that kind of stuff. And Maggie didn't have it as hard as Lucy either. Maggie didn't do any silly tricks. She wasn't painting and all that kind of stuff.
So the only block here is the Edmonton Zoo. That's the only block, and they can claim to owning her, or is
she's government property. Well, they bought her, but she is government property. Yeah.
Okay.
But this kind of explained it a little bit. So this is from the USDA in America. So it says here that if we there's pictures of Samantha. So I like this picture.
Samantha is the elephant that she lived with for 16 years, correct? Yes.
Yeah. So you've got Lucy and Samantha. Samantha, they've all got a few names, because Lucy's real name is Scannick. So Lucy's here, Samantha's here. Lucy's Asian, Samantha's African. In the wild, the two don't mix. So of course they had to go and get 2 different species elephants, didn't they, being Edmonton, and they didn't have the space for them at all. And that's written in also documents and stuff. So this is an elephant hug. So all that, she don't like other elephants. Edmonton used I think it was a time when they were playing. Now they play like toddlers play, but they're elephants, they're big and they're strong. And there isn't much room in that yard. I think Samantha fell in the ditch or something, and they use that as an excuse. But these 2 elephants were called to each other, trunk hugs and everything else. So when they were trying to get rid of her, because the breeding didn't work, they wanted to breed, and then they realised it's a really daft idea. And they sent Lucy away twice to Calgary to breed. And Edmonton tried to say that Lucy doesn't travel well because she gets stressed. Well, in the Calgary records, there was no stress for Lucy. She travelled really well, and she had no proper training, which is what they would have now. Because in those days, they just bunged them on the truck and off they went. Whereas now they are properly trained. So we know she doesn't get stressed travelling and all that. Anyway, she didn't breed. It was a silly idea. So then they wanted shot of Samantha, get rid of her. Being an African elephant, she was actually quite valuable. And the only place she could go was the North Carolina Zoo. Now, they have got a superb, amazing facility. It is gigantic. It's acres. And they've got a proper herd place. But it did say here, to say the least, getting to this point has been a great deal of work for the Valley Zoo. They don't have suitable space for this animal by itself, and they definitely don't have room for any more were she to be bred in Canada. And they have no money to expand their program. Importing this animal to the US is by far the best option for this animal. And it does say the biggest stumbling block being city government that doesn't understand animal management, conservation, interzoo management programs, to say the least. So, this is again what other zoos are saying. They're not, they're not out to be rude or horrible. It's just everybody's recognising it, except the Edmonton Council and the Alberta wildlife department, and anybody else who owns a permit, holds a permit over Lucy's head. So Samantha is here, and she's still alive. I did check a couple of days ago. So she's now in the Canada. So I think she is this one. She's either this one or this one. She hasn't got any tusks. So she's in a very happy place. But you look at that, not all zoos are bad. And, we want to realise that, but just so everybody's aware.
Oh, no, for sure. This isn't an issue on zoos. This is an issue on the situation. Right. Yeah, and there you go.
So that's where Lucy spends 75% of her day. That's where Samantha spends most of every single day. That's the problem. And in this building, as we know, It's not very nice. Lucy sleeps in a corridor on a pile of sand. And
By herself. No
by
sunshine.
herself. She's seen on webcams by the vet, Dr. London, swaying distressed in the middle of the night because Dr. London reviewed one of the night films. It's supposed to be soft sand. It's actually grit, some of this stuff. And she's got sores that rarely heal in her skin. Now, to change sand, all you do is you phone the local company, you order a few tons, it comes in, you get a mini digger or a bigger digger, you get a dumper truck, and off you do, or if you go with it. It's really simple. I mean, who wants their dog, their horse, any animal? Who
Yeah.
would put their animal in the place of Lucy in there? Or even want their city to pay money for that. And just to compare, that's what a normal, decent zoo looks like. That's the space and a barn that is suitable for elephants. Ginormous. The elephant in the UK that's on her own has got a barn 9 times bigger than Lucy's. It's state of the art, temperature control, ventilation. It's proper sand. It's safe. She can wander in and out. She's got a pool. And obviously we don't have the climate you've got. So there are lone elephants with a lot better facilities. And vets over the years, even as to who has said, Lucy needs a better barn, needs better facilities. So even the ones that have said no said Lucy needs better stuff. And again, Edmonton have already paid for this. The people have already paid.
Yes, you're
Where's the
right.
value for money?
Yeah, there's almost two issues here. One is she could travel, she should just go to a sanctuary. And there's also a sanctuary that will
that's
take
it.
Right. The second
the
one is just where she's living. Her if she's not going to travel and they're not going to do that, they need to address her living conditions.
Well, this is the bit that irritates everybody, is that you pick up the phone and by the time you phone the second time, they've got you on the answer phone. And then you'll get this email to say, oh, we've looked at it and it's all fine. And you're like, well, it's really not, because they're not upholding the zoo standards. It's not lawful.
Legal.
It's right. And it's paid for. So, that's the problem here. If Lucy had a stonking great barn like the elephant in England's got, now there's a lot of people who want the elephant in England moved. That's Annie. It's Annie's not in the worst place in the world. At least she's got some facilities. She does sway and rock backs and forwards. But she was a beaten circus elephant. She had an awful lot of trauma. But then so's Lucy. Lucy's been beaten as well.
Comparison, because I think any animal condition, elephant condition, if you compare it to Lucy, I mean, we're setting the standards so low there. It's disgusting that
it is disgusting.
That he's not the worst. It's still wrong on so many levels, and to try to
it
say
is, it is. But when I see Annie able to wander in, I don't see her because she's out of sight, but when I've seen videos and stuff of her being able to wander in and out, and I just think, God, I wish Lucy had that freedom. Lucy, this is a typical Lucy summer picture, right? They parked her on mown grass by cars. Again, this is breaking the safety standards, and nobody upholds them in Alberta. She's by a car. It's boiling hot. She has no access to water. She can't graze. She's only there so people can take photos. And I've cut it out of the picture because there was someone there with their kid going, oh, look. But what's the kids seen? They've seen a depressed elephant who's got loads of health problems because she stood there.
It looks like a dog park.
It's ridiculous. The whole thing is.
And yeah, that's what that looks like with the fence area. It looks like a dog park. And you're going to.
One thing I will say, as well, is just going quickly back to that, and then I'll dump this, is Lucy has been taught to urinate over a drain. The bedding is coming up at the vet said is coming up at the sides where Lucy's pulled up a bit and it's old. And it doesn't support her feet enough. But maybe it's because if she wheezes, the mats get slippery or something. So she has to wait until the keepers turn up, take her over a drain, and she's carrying a 70-pound uterine tumour. She waited 10 years to get the proper treatment for that. And that was from Dr. London, who gave the vet, who started her off on it. 10 years for a tumour medication. She's got a £70 tumour and she's not allowed to wee when she wants to. So I'll just go around. Yeah.
No, go ahead. I wanted to
That's
talk
right.
a little bit, move forward. Well, I wanted,
Yeah.
Well, go ahead. Go ahead.
There's loads of this, but I'm just going to give you.
You're the pro. You lead this.
I'll just give you a few bits. So the health record, if it was an honest health record, you got left foot sore, infection to left foot, right toe very swollen, right foot pad is lifting in the centre, hip abrasion, pus from tail abscess, right toe bulging, treatment for upper respiratory congestion, blood in urine, continued treatment, nasal mucus, congested, pus in tail, not sleeping, more trouble breathing when laying on right side. And it is literally every single line, and there's lots on each page, and nothing changes. It's the same thing. So with all that going on, it's because they cannot keep Lucy safe and well. They just can't. You know, they're fighting infections, and I'm not surprised given where she lives. You know, and it says Lucy's got great feet on the Edmonton website. Well, no, she hasn't. It says it in your own records. And so when kids are watching Lucy walk on concrete, she walks so slowly, the poor soul, because concrete really hurts elephants' feet. She's already got foot problems. Where's the all-weather walkway? You know, an all-weather walkway is so simple to make. Why hasn't she got that in 40 years? A soft surface, basic husbandry. But she stood around so people can take pictures of her. And of course, the bull hooks are always out. You know, and this one, when she's walked in winter, they've got a bull hook like to chivvy her feet along. Well, her feet are sore and she's cold. They refuse to put a coat on her. Below 7 degrees, elephants need coats. So that's the kind of moaning bit done.
Below
it's
7.
Like, oh, come
on. Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll move on a little bit.
No, it's I'm not, for the host, I'm speechless. You're providing such a strong argument, I think, for myself and maybe for some of the listeners. We're thinking, okay, there's been a lot of proof that this is illegal. There's been a lot of illegal activity. So we in Canada have an organization called Animal Justice, which is based out of Toronto. And I believe that they have been involved in trying to help Lucy, and I never like to say that anybody who's tried has been ineffective. I mean, clearly she's still there and she's still being abused and there's still cruelty. But I think everybody who's tried anything is making a positive impact. So not as a criticism, but if there's this many things that are illegal, wouldn't it? Animal justice is made up of lawyers. I should clarify.
They've tried.
Yes,
the thing is, the same as Zuchek, they tried, and then it got chucked out on a technicality. You need to go under this law. You need to go under that. The same, really. It reminded me of all the Marineland trials. You know, how many times had they been taken, you know, to court? It's hard. It doesn't matter who you are. You know, it is. The doors are closed to law enforcement, and that's the problem. Because it's also, I suppose, it's you know, it's going on corruption, isn't it? Because if people can't access the legal routes to law, either they should pull it from the website and say, sorry, you know, you can't make a complaint about the zoo, that's it. Just be honest about it. But if it says on there you can make a complaint and it will get investigated, well, you should be able to make a complaint and it should be investigated. A lot of this evidence that's in here never got heard because they just, you know, it got taken, oh, you should have gone under this law, not that law, you should have done this, you should have done that. And Animal Justice, like everybody else, has tried. You know, they've only got limited resources. And this is why maybe when you're a single advocate and there's a lot of you, you can really bug these people. and say, come on, I'm sitting in the UK, I'm sitting here in Australia, I'm sitting in New Zealand, I'm here in whatever, I can see it. These are your world tourists. I've been to Canada, I'd like to go back. We're your world tourists, but we don't want to. I don't go anywhere where there's, horrible, cruelty to animals. I don't want to. I don't want to spend my tourist money there. And I don't need to go and see a distressed elephant. I'd like to go and see nice parks. I'd like to go and see wildlife. I'd like to do the ecotourism. Um, there's nothing bad about sending Lucy away, but one thing here, Margaret Whittaker's thing was it was the first time I've realised that Lucy fights back and has fought back, which really, I wasn't impressed, because that's probably the wrong word, because she shouldn't have to, but it just reminds you that there is a really intelligent individual in there.
She knows
And
things are wrong. She knows this is wrong.
yeah,
She knows she's
yeah,
not supposed to be living like this, and she knows these
yeah,
people are doing mean things. She has
yeah,
cognitive abilities. She has emotions. She's a
yeah,
living, breathing, thinking, processing, feeling, sentient being. And
exactly.
she fought
Yeah.
back because she knew what was happening was wrong.
Oh, she's bolted from these keepers. She's taken swings at them. Um, Bad behaviours, weird moods, not listening, being bratty, struggled to get to leave grass, and
Oh,
I
what?
know, crabby. And this lady, oh yeah, grabby with hooks. I've heard that she's thrown a bull hook. It says here, many times when an elephant is grabby, they are frustrated and not necessarily wanting to have what they grab. It is highly likely that Scannick, Lucy, recognises the hook, recognises when it's used, and perhaps doesn't want to participate in what's next in her day.
Yeah,
So for
I, yeah, that
so
would
for
be
instance, here on June the 11th, 2008, it was noted she was getting getting crabby and beelined for the building, which suggests the staff lost the ability to control her movements. She was very agitated. She was bolting in her late walk. She broke the fence again. Lucy's
right
enclosed.
there, right there.
Mm,
Get her to a sanctuary, right there.
yeah,
You
she's
don't just,
broken. Yeah,
this is, that's
it's
not the way
bonkers. Yeah,
any animal. It's not even the way we should mix with humans, and it's not the way that we should work with any animal. If they're showing signs of disliking our approaches, then we need to change our approach. We need to think about what is important to them, and instead of continuing to suppress and physically and emotionally beat them down and suppress them, we need to say there's a reason that they're doing this.
yeah. This lady, I mean, Margaret Whittaker was such an expert. As I said, she was a zoo director, and had 175 elephants under her jurisdiction, her care over her career. And she said here, based on the records I reviewed, it is my opinion that Scannick has a history of non-cooperation, has shown aggressive behaviours towards keepers, has destroyed property. The staff could not maintain a level of control over her behaviour that provides assurance of the public safety when she's walked outside. Now, I know LEAP have raised this issue for decades, that it is breaking the Alberta safety law that Lucy has walked around the zoo. I mean, I've seen pictures of her near pushchairs. And it says here in these records, she's bolted previously. There's even a newspaper article, she bolted out the zoo once. A policeman couldn't keep up with her when the gate was left unlocked. So, where's the bonding?
That's exactly, I mean, as much as that woman is making a valid point that she shouldn't be put into those situations, using the term that Lucy is being belligerent or difficult or not listening. No, Lucy's being an elephant in confinement.
Yeah,
It's
she's
her
fighting
will
back.
against
Yeah,
for any. She's an innocent elephant on death row her entire life.
yeah,
She's her, I guess, because the way I work with dogs and as a behaviorist, it's not that their actions are wrong or horrible. It's that we need to learn how to work with them. So
And
to
this is what
that
Margaret did.
that
She
her yeah,
tried. She
yeah,
tried
I
really
yeah,
hard to, to
yes,
give the
her
staff
was
some
good.
training. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
But
it,
to say
from the
that she's
pictures, nothing's changed.
uncontrollable, well, yes,
Yeah.
she's an elephant.
Yeah.
It, this isn't this isn't against it shouldn't be portrayed as and I know that she was doing a positive and she's done
Mm.
wonderful work. Just that terminology right there, we should flash if that's how Lucy's being described, it's because she's unhappy. She's not, if humans can't control an elephant, it's because we shouldn't be controlling an elephant.
Absolutely. And this is what people don't see, because when they see her paraded, it doesn't occur to them that why isn't she striding out? It doesn't occur to them because they don't know all these records, because of course they wouldn't see them.
No,
I've just got this bit here, and I'll just read
yes,
this to you. It
I
says,
don't mind.
since I became aware of Scanic's situation, I've discussed with zoo staff and other professional colleagues their thoughts regarding relocating her. The responses span the spectrum. Most of the colleagues I spoke with, particularly the ones who were opposed to moving her, had not been involved in many elephant transports and especially hadn't moved elephants that were in suboptimal condition. It seemed their fear of the unknown in part drove them to an opinion.
Well
You see,
said.
and that
Wonderful.
is why she's still at that flipping zoo. It really
Yeah.
is, and
And it gets
then
back to your original quite a while ago, which is good, your original where you said that the the negative outcomes of her being moved were to the zoo.
yeah, yeah,
It was
but
that the reason that they're not moving her has nothing to do with her, at least from anybody who's experienced enough to make that decision. It's
if they
because it's going to negatively affect the zoo.
if they got in expert movers, um, they've already got they've already got decades of yes votes. Lucy can move, and it's because elephants are great travelers. If you think about the ones that had horrible lives in the begging industry and living in chains all the time, they get transported to sanctuaries. They don't die.
Yeah,
Circus elephants, think how badly they're kept. You know, they
they
move
do.
all the
Yeah,
time. Elephants are
animals
actually
do.
good
Oh,
travelers.
yes. Like many different
Yeah.
species go
There's a
from
really, yeah, Dr.
situation
London,
to that.
yeah, Dr. London said it really well. She said, Lucy is already breathing and walking. She's actually just got to breathe on a luxury transport thing. That's all she's got to do. She's got to stand there and breathe. And this
That's
is
all she's doing.
Lucy's,
That's so
yeah,
true.
yeah, that's her transport plan. That is
Yeah.
it. Who knows in
She's going to
Edmonton,
be doing
there's
the
a
same thing
transport
that
plan.
she's doing right now,
Yeah,
being put into a confined environment where she has to stand and
yeah,
breathe until she
yeah,
gets to where she's going. That's it.
yeah, yeah, that's it. That's all. And the thing is, over the years, this picture was one that's always done the rounds of the internet. Now, this picture here, she's got a stick shoved up her nostrils to hit the piano on the ground. So you can see that. She's got arthritis and she's performing circus tricks. And that's how she's spending her day. She's breathing while doing all these really uncomfortable things. Well, the minute she gets on a transporter, she's doing nothing uncomfortable. Nothing at all. And we know she'd like to get out of that zoo because she bolted for it when the gate was open. So one other thing, actually, we will, if you don't mind, we just mention
Take your time. Go ahead.
is,
I
thank you, are the
feel
paintings.
embarrassingly unequipped. You're just doing a wonderful job. Thank you so much. Continue,
That's right.
please.
So $450 for that. So what do you get for $450? What does Lucy get for $450? Oh, and by the way, they did this to a seal as well called Hula. So
What is
we
that?
know that's Hula, who there's a seal apparently called, and they've made her paint as well. So the idea with this painting business is they say it raises money for enrichment, But what they don't say is that Lucy stood there with arthritis, sore feet, and she's having a paintbrush lodged in her trunk, which has got a
Yeah.
blockage that they never had a scope long enough to really find out, and now it's too late to sort it out. So what we thought we'd do is, first of all, the elephant's trunk, this is one of the science journals, may be one of the most sensitive body parts of any animal. It contains 400,000 neurons, a lot more than expected. And it goes on to say how amazing, how sensitive their trunks are. And we know elephants, like their feet, they communicate over miles and distances, and they've got all kinds of, amazing talent. So that's just more of the same. So what I've got here is, let's have a bit of fun. So some paint. This is kids' paint. It's non-toxic, but one of the advocates tested the paint used by the zoo. They went to the dollar store, they bought the paint. It was toxic until people created a fuss. Then they said they switched to non-toxic. But non-toxic on your skin still has some nasties. And we know by science how sensitive an elephant's trunk is. So what they did is they got some paint, and it's quite funny because elephants only see certain colours, but they like to claim that Lucy chooses her favourite colours, right?
And they're calling this enrichment?
This is enrichment. Yeah, she can stand there with arthritis
Not
in
enrichment.
a barn that's got no windows with painted trees on the walls, and
This
she
is
can spend
their meager little excuses of
$450. Some people have paid for this nonsense, right? Then they've got a cloth. There you go. Wipe it on there. Her nostrils.
on
Like
her.
that. Yeah, on her trunk. Yeah, on her trunk. There's still a Lucy painting video on social media. So do that, and then I can't believe people fall for this, but they did, and perhaps they were innocent. And then what they do is they have a Lucy kiss. I'm not kidding. A Lucy kiss.
I'm completely.
And there's a whole list. I nearly printed it up, but I thought, well, I won't embarrass them because hopefully one day they'll realise. But there are charities, conservation charities, that take money. I think last year the Edmonton Valley Zoo gave 7 million to conservation charities. And then they went back to the council, asked for 11 million for improvements, including for Lucy. Why didn't they use that 7 million for Lucy to have safe air to breathe and a safe, lawful new barn? It would cost $1 million to give her a state-of-the-art barn. Why didn't they do that? It seems to me that some of this conservation, and I'm going to highlight the con, goes to huge salaries. And why should Lucy be a victim? It makes you wonder what kind of genuine charity would do that to an animal. So she stood there, bored out of her mind, doing that for that. And someone's going to pay $450 for that? It's a blob. The animal doesn't even know what colour it is. She don't care what colour it is. If I was going to do that to, I don't know, what have we got here? I've just tried to find some old bits hanging around. There's a panda. What should I do? Go and rub a panda's nose in that and blob it? Why are they picking on Lucy? What about, if someone's got a horse, really sensitive? Should we go, and then start kissing, put a bit of paper on it? If you had a horse at a horse show and people were doing that on the horse's muzzles, people would go berserk. They wouldn't put up with it.
Well,
and yet for some reason, people put up with this Lucy. It was even at the airport. Edmonton Airport was selling them. And what does Lucy get out of it? Rocks. They bought us some rocks.
Yeah, this is just.
What's she going to do with rocks? I mean, I nearly did it to my old eel here because it reminds me of the days, weeks, months, years till, the penny drops.
I think this enrichment, I mean, obviously it's a big thing in my profession as well, this enrichment, and I think it is often used as a cover up for pretending to make the environment Yeah, I did. I just completed a course out of the PhD program at the University of Sweden, Agricultural Sciences, and it was on cognition and emotions to improve animal welfare. And we did discuss how to improve. I did it virtually, but a lot of people did it virtually. There were some people live, and they had a day trip to the zoo. Um, and just looking at and then while they were at the zoo, we had assignments that and we got together as a group and saw videos and different aspects of the zoo. So we were kind of doing what they were doing, but virtually. So looking at the different environments of the different species and researching the different species, just not totally in depth, but on what how they would live in their natural environment and what they would do on a minute by minute basis or a daily basis, or would they look for food? Would they, play with each other? These types of things. Would they climb up on things? Whether it's rocks or mountains or whatever it was lots of different species. And I get it. Like, I get trying to simulate what they would do and trying to understand it. But I do think a lot of it is just to make humans feel better and to make us feel better that we're providing them with enrichment. But it's very challenging it was interesting what you said, bored out of her mind is partly where I'm going with this. The brain is still not stimulated in the same way, which is so important mentally, emotionally, to be able to harness cognitive skills, which comes from survival on many different levels, whether it's foraging for food or whether it's finding a place to even finding a place to urinate or to
Mm.
defecate so that they feel safe doing that. I mean, there's a lot. The idea of teaching her that she has to urinate over it just so goes so against. And then they're saying that is enrichment because she's painting or what? I mean, no, no, that's not.
Exactly. There's nothing in it for her. And also, Lucy's always been obese. It's something that the zoo says she's not. But it says here that in 2022, she was 9,445 pounds. Now, it says in one of the Dr. Lindsay things and one of the other things that she should be something like 6,700 pounds would be a healthy Asian elephant weight. And we go up and down between the 8,000s and the 9,000s over all these records. Lucy is 5 out of 5 and considered obese. In North America Zoo, 74% of elephants had a body score above normal. And obviously, for any animal, for anybody, it's going to bring on health issues. She's not enriched. She can't, enrichment falls in with welfare, mental health, and everything else. Your enrichment should be going for a walk, walking your dog, doing something that makes you happy, because that's when, you're not eating junk and you're doing something that is natural. Well, she's micromanaged. She's got people surrounding her, with those bull hooks, putting her along. And it says here, like, Lucy should have access to running water at all times. Well, she doesn't. She drinks from a hose. And the access to water is not there all the time. So I queried this with the zoo manager. He got a little bit uppity and he said, oh, the vet's got it wrong. She does have water at night. And I said, well, can you prove that, please? And I still haven't had an answer. As far as I know, and from the vet reports, she's not getting enough water, it says in the vet report. And between the 12 hours, it might be more, because obviously the people go home at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock and, they're not there till the next day. So Lucy's spending all that time at night without water that I know of. And
that is basic. That is basic access to food and water and the ability to breathe.
Yeah.
These are basic. This should not be.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. It says here 12 hours a day. and obviously several months a year, no access at all. And this is the Dr. London one, and it's just full of. It's a really a good summary of over the years, all the things that were said that were never done, and so obviously things were probably not so bad years ago and now worse because nothing was ever done. And just to let you, you think an elephant's got quite tough skin, but I don't know if you can see that, but those are Lucy's sores.
Yeah, that's from sleeping on
That's
cement,
from
walking
sleeping on grit.
on,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
And it's
not
getting
the.
into her skin, it's infecting her.
Yeah, and I think there's it's either thermal image or I think it's thermal image, that one, so you can see there's long-term foot pain there. But she, it's really lovely that Dr. London addressed the breathing issue, because not being funny, but as you get older, everybody's got aches and pains. We saw it with the Orca Toki. They expected her to be an Olympic athlete almost to leave the place. Well, when you're halfway through your life, you're not going to be. All you've got to do is be well enough to make the journey. And to be honest, if you made the journey and survived a day, a month, a week, a year, 2 years, 5 years, you've made it out. And it's that happiness that is what is proven now, with so many elephants having gone from zoos and circuses. It's proven that even the worst in health elephants recovered and had a
They did.
really, yeah, and they did, and
Of
it was
course. I
worth
mean,
it.
this is, even if they just cover a very little area and just spend their day looking at the
Yeah,
sky. Of course they're going to get healthier.
yeah, exactly. And in her thing here, I just want to say, is Lucy fit to travel? And I think this is a really good one to end on, is that she words it so well. She said, in my opinion, it is possible to move Lucy, and I do believe she should be moved for her health and welfare. The listed health issues do not prevent her from being transported to a different, more appropriate environment. I witnessed no evidence of respiratory distress during any part of our exams and or testing or walking around the zoo with her. In an ideal situation, the Edmonton Valley Zoo management and staff would be working collaboratively with others, and also everybody pooling their expertise, knowledge, hands-on experience to get the best possible outcome for Lucy. So, nobody's got any animosity. Over the years, all anybody from zoos or sanctuaries saying, please move Lucy, has ever wanted is a joint effort. That's all they've wanted, a fair and open joint effort. Come on, let's just, do the right thing for Lucy. She's an individual. And when they're changing laws in Edmonton and Canada, like they've done recently, they're bringing through a new, I don't know, gorilla and elephant thing, no more gorillas and elephants. Well, were there going to be any more gorillas and elephants anyway? Probably not. Certainly not in Edmonton. But they're forgetting when they make these laws about the individuals. All these people are quoting science to make these laws. Well, where did the science go about the sentience of Lucy? When did we decide to take Lucy and go, oh, well, you don't matter? She does matter.
She does
She
matter.
matters to a lot of people. So this is quite sweet. She said, based on her observations of Lucy, she's a very curious and calm elephant, and I think she'd be open to a new adventure.
Aww.
And I thought that was really sweet. And she said as well, both the temperature and the decreased amount of sunlight in Edmonton creates an inhospitable and cruel environment for an Asian elephant. The force walks on the snow and ice in -15 and -30 weather borders on absurd. There is simply no way to provide Lucy with an appropriate life or the life she deserves in Edmonton. It needs to be clear that her life at the Edmonton Valley Zoo and those unwilling to relocate Lucy or even make the previously suggested changes own responsibility in what will be her probable early death. The decision to keep
And
her in
horrible
Canada.
existence.
Yeah, exactly. It's created an impoverished scenario Lucy now finds herself in. That's sad, isn't it? And there's no animosity there. It's just fact. And that is why I started all this, because I thought, you know what, I'm going to just dive into the stuff that people don't read because it's 500 pages. There's got to be a stone unturned. It's quite funny, isn't it, given the rocks? But we're going to do that because everything we've read, I mean, it's like watching a Lassie movie from when you were kids or something else. You know, you're willing this animal home. You know, you're willing her to find some happiness. And in this, you know, if the state of the world at the moment, everybody needs a happy ending of something. You know, if there's a cat saved from a war zone, everybody's happy. It is a good feel good factor. And this is another reason everybody's so determined to not give up. You know, she's not giving up. You know, she's surviving. She was built by nature to survive the harshest environment, and she's done it.
Canada needs to step up. We need to.
They do. They absolutely do.
Right. We do.
And yeah, they do. And I'll just end on this for you. It says, at the Tennessee Elephant Sanctuary, she will have the opportunity to have yards she can graze in, a lake and multiple ponds she can swim in if she wants. Most of the elephant's time is spent outdoors. She will also have access to a large heated barn with both radiant and floor heat, sand beds, and thick poured rubber flooring to the stalls. During the spring and summer, the elephants at Tess are able to consume approximately 85% of their diet off the land, whereas Lucy lives on hay. You know, she rarely gets any fresh browse because, you know, she's grazing mown grass and there's nothing to eat when it's all frozen. The elephants have free access to the yards and stalls. They can decide where they want to be, and they have 24/7 expert hands-on care there. You know, it's a wildlife park. It's not the wild that some people worry. But how could anybody, you know, keep Lucy from that in favour of watching her walk slowly and in pain around the zoo and swaying in distress? I mean, you know, if there's love for Lucy, let her go. Let her go. You know, you've had 46 years, give that animal, you know, a year or two. And why a lot of people feel so passionate is because we've seen Kiska die, we've seen Tokate die, and everybody would have just wished that those highly intelligent animals could just for a day or two, you know, I said, or a week or a month or a year, be themselves. And that's what Dr. London said. She said, you know, in this, it would be so lovely just to see Lucy being herself, having the chance to be herself.
Find who she is.
Yeah.
I'm sure she doesn't even know. Like, it's terrible. She just needs to be able to have her brain,
Yeah,
and her mind and her emotions and her just to feel.
exactly.
This
And
must be so easy.
yeah, I mean, there's a whole load of stuff here as well about which Alberta laws have been broken. And throughout the decades, it's the same letter with a different date. It's the same sections, it's the same everything. You know, and this is the thing, we're doing the same stuff. But what I say to people is, you know, LEAP work really hard, individual people work really hard. Anything anybody will do, pick up the phone politely, you know, there's no need, you know, people can disagree, and people, you know, we've got to go back to the days when people can disagree and not be horrible to each other. You know, politely ask the council, come on, we've seen all this, can we do something? Can you unblock? I'll do the, you know, I'm happy to report this and to follow the, you know, the channels, but unblock them. And yeah, you know, any email or anything done for Lucy is never wasted. You know, that's all I'd say, really. Yeah.
So people can, when you're saying LEAP, it is an organization that perhaps people can follow, and that is an acronym. Would you, you know, for more information or ways?
Yes, it's
We'll
they're the
also
Edmonton advocates, yeah, and you know, I followed them and other people do, and they were the ones that got like Chayla to come to Edmonton, and they've been on it for years, and they're a lovely bunch of people. But why I sort of stand alone on it is because sometimes it can be a little bit, people are so used to the zoo says this, the main advocates say this, and it's like, oh, same old, same old. And
that's
it's a shame.
yes, it's almost creating a division when I need the facts, and that's not Leap's fault at all by any means.
No,
They really
it's not.
shouldn't even have to exist.
No,
They're just, yes, and then when things get divided, it almost becomes an ego where the zoo just won't.
yeah, and
So,
Leap have worked phenomenally hard. I mean,
yes,
I can't
yeah.
say enough how hard they've worked.
So
And
definitely
Harry,
for listeners to check out Leap because they do have a lot of information there as
mm,
well, and we will post that in the show notes as well. Any links um, for more information and for what individual people can do from all over the world. I mean, you don't have to be,
no,
like you said, Yvonne. We don't have to go there and look at Lucy. So much. And it's not hopeless. It's not done. Canada needs to recognize this, and it'll take uh, you know, one influential person to do something right
yeah,
and make
exactly.
that change.
Yeah,
And
and we're not asking for the zoo to close. We're not asking for any kind of major upheaval. It's just please retire Lucy. She deserves it. Yeah.
thank you so much, Yvonne. You've been a wealth of information. Like I said,
Sorry,
I
is that
was honored when you
I
asked me
talk
to
too
host
much?
this, but I feel no, it's never too much. It's emotionally a lot, and that's good. It should be. That means that you presented very well, and you have an enormous amount of information, and you've done an enormous amount of work, and we are so grateful for you.
Thank
And
you.
I'm
That's really
honored
kind.
to have been able to host this. Thank you so much, and
Lovely.
we'll keep in touch.
Thank you,
Take care.
Billie. Pleasure.
Thank you,
Bye.
Yvonne. Take care. Bye-bye. And we're from the All About Animals Radio. Thank you so much for joining us. This is the Solutionist Show. Please share, and please also check out the other shows and interviews on the All About Animals site. There's a lot of very good shows and a lot of very good hosts and an immense number of incredibly knowledgeable people. Thank you so much.